Hello and welcome to the show. I am Joe Topet. Disney has created some of the most memorable villains ever. There have been plenty of videos here on YouTube talking about the best ones. Most of these videos talk about the movie villains. Very few talk about the ones for TV. I think Disney's TV villains are just as good as their movie ones. So in today's video, I'm going to count down Disney's 10 best TV villains. Let's begin. Number 10. Mechanicals from Aladdin TV show. I've always thought of inventors as being messy. They're always working on their inventions. That's bound to cause a mess. Mechanicals is an inventor who happens to be a neat freak. The guy's a walking contradiction. Mechanicals' main goal is world domination. Pretty standard stuff for a Saturday morning cartoon villain. His inventions are rather creative, but the drawing point for his character is his obsession with keeping everything clean. The guy would literally drop everything he's doing just to clean up a mess. There are no shortages of mad inventors in cartoons, but as far as I know, there's only one who happens to be a neat freak, and that mad inventor is Mechanicals. Number 9. Fat Cat from Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. One of the reasons why I hate the Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers movie is that they didn't use Fat Cat as their villain. How could they not? He's awesome. Fat Cat is basically a gang leader who's behind most of the crime the Rescue Rangers have to deal with. He's only one of 2 recurrent villains on the show. That's right. Besides Professor Nimnol, Fat Cat is the only recurrent villain. It was kind of tough to decide which character to put on the list. Fat Cat won out because unlike Nimnol, Fat Cat is able to talk to the Rescue Rangers. Number 8. Don Carnage from Tailspin. Don Carnage and his air pirates are more or less the only recurrent villains on Tailspin. I don't consider Shere Khan a villain. Yes, I know he's done shady things on the show. He's even employed Don Carnage at one time to get what he wants. With that said, Shere Khan was always more interested in running his business than coming up with some evil scheme. He's also been known to help out the good guys and reward them. I always saw him as a neutral character rather than a good guy or a bad guy. With Don Carnage, there is no question he's a bad guy, and he's proud of it. He does have a code of honor. In one episode, he actually protected Baloo from his men because he owed them a favor. Kit was also originally a member of Don Carnage's crew, but the show never mentions that after the pilot movie. Don Carnage is a funny character. One of the reasons why he's so great is his voice. I wish I could play an audio of his voice, but everyone who's heard it knows what I mean. I'm not sure what his accent is supposed to be, but it adds a lot to the character's over-the-top personality. As much as I like Don Carnage in the DuckTales reboot, he doesn't hold a candle to the original. Number 7. The Fearsome Five from Darkwing Duck. It's impossible to pick one villain from Darkwing Duck, so I went with a team, the Fearsome Five. The Fearsome Five are the most iconic villains from the show, and for good reason. They are the biggest threat to St. Canard. They're basically the equivalent of the Sinister Six from Spider-Man. The members are Megavolt, Quackerjack, Bushroot, Liquidator, and Negaduck. Negaduck is the leader of the Fearsome Five. However, he's more than willing to backstab the others. Why the others still follow him after all the times he backstabbed them, I'll never know. Even though each member was good by themselves, my favorite is Megavolt. He's crazy. They were always at their best together. Number 6. David Xanatos from Gargoyles. Disney is really good at creating complex villains, and nobody is more complex than Xanatos. He could have just been the stereotypical evil rich guy, but there's surprisingly a lot more to him. Xanatos has done a lot of evil things on the show, like reviving the Gargoyles for his own personal use, employing a mad scientist to turn people into gargoyles, including Alicia's brother, and so on and so forth. What makes Xanatos so interesting is that he does have a lot of respect for Goliath, even though he isn't above exploiting him. We also got to meet Xanatos' father, who's a poor fisherman who doesn't like the fact that his son turned out so evil. Xanatos also fell in love. That's right, the bad guy found true love. There was another villain named Fox, who Xanatos arranged to get out of prison early. At first I thought he had some evil scheme involved when he started dating her. In the Halloween episode, he gives her a jewel that causes her to change into a werewolf. Xanatos didn't know that would happen, and he was actually worried about Fox's safety. The two would get married and have a son. In Season 2's finale, Xanatos' in-laws tried to take his son away from him, leading to an epic battle. Because the Gargoyles helped, Xanatos becomes their friend. I guess having kids really does change you. Number 5. Duke Eggform from Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears. Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears was Disney's first animated cartoon for television. So I guess that means Duke Eggform would be Disney's first TV villain, at least in animated form. Duke Eggform is a lot like Gargamel from the Smurfs. Both are humans who know a race of mythical creatures exist and try to capture them. The big difference is that Gargamel is a poor wizard who wants to turn the Smurfs into gold, or eat them, depending on his mood. Eggform, on the other hand, is a duke who wants to capture the gummy bears to learn their secrets so he can take over the kingdom of Dunwin. Eggform has ogres working for him, and boy, are they stupid. The interesting thing about Duke Eggform is he actually succeeds. You heard right. There was a 2-part episode towards the end of the show where Eggform destroys the gummy bears' home, forces them to share their secrets, and takes over Dunwin. It was a pretty gutsy move for the time. Of course he loses in the end, but the gummy bears were left homeless. While there have been many TV villains for Disney since Duke Eggform, how many can claim they left the heroes homeless? Number 4. Flintheart Glomgold from 2017 DuckTales. It wasn't easy deciding on which version of Glomgold to put on this list. Both are worthy adversaries to Scrooge in their own way. The reason why I picked Reboot Glomgold is because of how insane he is. While the original Glomgold was evil, he had a lot of sense. Reboot Glomgold would come up with the most nonsensical scheme he could think of, and yet he thinks it's brilliant. He refuses to see the flaws in his plans, even when it's pointed out to him. Glom in the reboot also has an interesting backstory, not shown in the original. I'll go over it in another video. You know the funny thing about Glom in the reboot? Even though he comes up with stupid plans and you think he's the dumbest guy in the world, he was able to become the second richest duck in the world. How did he do that? Maybe he's smarter than we think he is. Number 3. Demona from Gargoyles. Everyone has to face tragedy. What separates the villains from the heroes is how they respond to it. The Gargoyles had to deal with prejudice from humans. They were even betrayed by the humans they trusted. Forced to watch their fellow Gargoyles get killed, Goliath and his friends ended up frozen for centuries before getting revived. Demona was forced to live alone. This experience caused her to harden her heart towards humans. Her hatred grew so deep, Demona ended up turning against her own clan. The interesting thing about Demona is that she was not only Goliath's lover, she's the mother of his daughter, Angela. That wasn't something I expected from a Disney villain, especially one created for TV. Number 2. Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls. If you think the Mind Flayer from Stranger Things is scary, you haven't met Bill Cipher. Like the Mind Flayer, Bill is a demon from another dimension. The main difference between the two is that Bill has a twisted sense of humor and uses manipulation to get what he wants. What does he want? To take over our dimension. When Ford hit a roadblock in his research, Bill uses him to create an interdimensional portal in order for the demons of the Nightmare Realm to enter our world. He also manipulates Dipper to give him his body so he can try to steal Ford's journal. Finally, he manipulates Mabel to unleash the Nightmare Realm that almost led to the end of the world. This little triangle can give Gozer a run for his money. What's interesting about Bill Cipher is the long-term damages he caused before Dipper and Mabel came to Gravity Falls. Fiddleford McGucket was a brilliant inventor and scientist until he saw the evil Bill planned to unleash, causing him to invent a ray to make him forget, leading Fiddleford to become the crazy old man McGucket. Ford Pines ended up getting stuck in another dimension for 30 years. This led to his twin brother Stan to spend a lifetime trying to get him back. Stan even adopts Ford's name and starts the Mystery Shack as a way to make money so he can keep trying to get Ford back. Who could be worse than an interdimensional demon who wants to destroy the world as we know it? Before answering this question, I like to do a honorable mention. Douglas Benson from Tailspin. Douglas Benson is pretty unique when it comes to Disney villains. He's not an inventor, a duke, a demon, or a super rich guy. He's an employee of Shere Khan who gets no respect. One day, a co-worker takes him to Louie's cafe, and he decides to try to buy it for Shere Khan. After getting humiliated, Douglas decides to seek revenge. He learns that Louie needs to stay on his island until midnight the next day, or else he loses it. So Douglas decides to forge his boss's signature, authorizing him the use of Shere Khan's men. What makes Douglas so interesting is how he's kind of sympathetic. How many of us had to deal with getting disrespected. Douglas crosses the line by using company resources for his own petty revenge. Louis actually apologized to him before Douglas tried to throw him off the island, making his actions unforgivable. Another thing I want to point out is that Shere Khan's men don't even like him. One of them even told Douglas how they were sick of getting their butts kicked for him. The only reason why they kept obeying Douglas was because they could lose their jobs. Douglas Benson only appeared in one episode, but he was so memorable, he was worth an honorable mention. Now with that out of the way, I'm sure you're wondering who is number one. You're not going to believe this, but number one, Bradford Buzzard from 2017 DuckTales. Some of you may be wondering why, out of all the villains I could have picked, did I choose Bradford as number one? There are a couple of reasons. The first is that Bradford prefers to work behind the scenes. None of the other villains on this list are shy about showing off how evil they are. Bradford, however, hates how flashy some villains can be, and would rather be low-key. He also works for the good guys at one time or another, first as an accountant for Shush, and later as Scrooge's CFO. Bradford actually tried to use his position at Shush to convince founder Ludwig von Drake to take over the world. When that failed, Bradford started foul, but continued to work behind the scenes, allowing villains like Black Heron to have all the glory. The second reason why I picked Bradford is that he doesn't consider himself a villain. Even though he does evil things, like threaten the lives of Scrooge's family, Bradford sees his actions as justified. He hates chaos and believes Scrooge's adventures does nothing but cause chaos. So he basically caused Della to get stuck on the moon as a way to break Scrooge. None of the other villains on this list are under the delusion that they are the good guys. Bradford has convinced himself that he is. In a lot of ways, that makes him worse than the others. That is why he's number one. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. And don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later.